Welcome to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. On this podcast, Laura
and Shelby, both board-certified nurse coaches, show you how to make as much money as you want in private practice as a nurse coach.
Hey, welcome to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. Today it is Laura, and I'm doing a solo episode just in time for the 4th of July. And the title of this episode is going to be Independence as a Nurse Coach. I wanted to speak to the common thread I hear over and over and over again on application calls. And I remember being a co-instructor in the collective. I remember my own thoughts. And it was like, when we really boiled down to it, when I asked people, well, why do you want to spend all this money to learn to be a nurse coach and spend all this money to learn how to start a business and go through all the obstacles and difficult parts of entrepreneurship? Like, what's it all for? And inevitably, it's always some version of, I want freedom. I value freedom. I want independence. I want agency over my time, over my money, over my life. This is exactly what I hear in different ways from different people. And I wanted to take a moment on this episode to explore the meaning of each of those words. The coach I have now, he has his thesaurus and dictionary up. And when he listens to his clients talk, a lot of times we'll define words, because a lot of times we throw around words, but we don't really know what they mean. And why would we? It's just our language, how we communicate. We don't think about every single definition of every single word. And is it the right word? And could we be choosing a more right word? But I think when you start getting into being an architect of the mind and an architect of our thoughts, being a creator of our own reality, if our thoughts create our reality and our thoughts are made up of words that create our reality, stay with me here. I feel like I'm doing a quantum physics little tangent here. But if our words create our reality, then perhaps choosing the most right word could be helpful. If we're building our reality like we were building a house, and if the words are every single component of that house, then understanding words in a deeper way, or understanding components of reality in a deeper way, can be helpful. So we're going to do a little bit of that here. So what is the difference between the word freedom and independence? Well, independent means that an individual can do something without depending on others, while freedom has a bigger boundary, which does not have any restrictions or rules. Independence is related to the capability of self-determination, and freedom to the absence of obstacles to work that out. That word self-determination really stuck out to me as I was researching this. I think that as employees, we some ways love that we're told where to be, what to do, and how to do it. And in some ways, we resent that we are told what to do, where to be, and how to do it. And so self-determination is the agency to decide for yourself. And I also think that freedom is more of an internal state that isn't really reliant on external factors, because you can see people have complete freedom in terrible circumstances. I wish I could remember the name of the author of, I think it's Viktor Frankl, about being in the concentration camps and how he found freedom there. And from a spiritual standpoint, the goal of having a really, really strong spiritual connection, spiritual practice, is that regardless of the external circumstances, that you can experience freedom. So this is a little bit, independence is a little different than that. But I thought it was worth just teasing out those two things for today. So today we're going to dive into the possibility of independence and independence as a nurse coach. And the two main bodies of this is going to be time independence and money independence. I also want to acknowledge that those two things don't equal freedom. There has been many seasons, one recently, as an entrepreneur, where I am not experiencing freedom, even though I technically have control over my time and money. So I really want to draw that out because we could probably find freedom within our roles at the hospital. We really could. In fact, we should. If we can find freedom in any circumstance, then we can probably have freedom for the rest of our life. But I know that for me and for lots of you, the external circumstance of making your own schedule to match your family's rhythm, deciding how much money you want to make to match your family's lifestyle, that gives more spaciousness to explore what freedom could feel like, but it doesn't equal that. So I wanted to throw that out there because I feel like so many times we're like, once I have time freedom and once I have financial freedom, my work day is perfect. My work week is perfect. My bank account has the amount of money in it. I'm going to feel XYZ. And it's not true, or else billionaires would be the happiest people on earth. Right? I feel like freedom and happiness is so much more of an internal thing and less external. But today we're going to talk about the external, the possibility of independence. But before I launch into my storytelling about my experience with this, I wanted to slow down just for a moment. I'm closing my eyes here. And I want to ask you and your soul and your personality. I want to ask you a question. And it's, what does independence mean to you? Right? Like what does that mean? If you were truly independent, this could bring up dynamics in your relationships, dynamics in your job, dynamics in your family, right? Like independence is such a cool word. And secondly, where in your life right now do you not feel independent? I'm going to tell a quick story about my last paid role working for Kaiser Permanente as a advice nurse at a call center in Sacramento, California. This job was, it looked great on the outside, right? It was 4 6-hour shifts. My younger sister was working there as well. We were commuting together and having a fun time commuting to work together. And then answering call center calls, 6 hours. And I think we had full benefits, retirement, and I think I was at 80 something an hour. And I know she was higher than me. It was, from the outside world, it was a good gig. We were getting paid a lot of money to work answering the phone. And there was so much space for overtime. They were constantly short. So there was like third weekend pay and overtime pay. And there were several nurses at this call center making $200,000 or $300,000 a year. This is, in some ways it was awesome. In other ways it was terrible. And I'll go into why I thought it was terrible. So if you work in a call center, you go through a pretty extensive training where you get all of the protocols. There is zero independence. You are a human part of a machine. And these protocols come top down from corporate. They are not nuanced. Honestly, AI could do it. Probably 90% of the calls AI could handle it. But we needed to be RNs because our clinical expertise, right? Like our clinical expertise, our intuition, our ability to maybe go off, use our critical thinking skills to get better outcomes. And at this call center, I began having a lot of health problems. I have been having health problems for years. I know I've spoken about this before. I was about 3 years into my health journey and this is just using Kaiser and Western medicine. And I was seeing orthopedics. They sent me to psychiatry, my primary care physician. I was seeing an allergist. I was being passed around everywhere, podiatry, because I had pain in my foot. But I essentially was given, so many different diagnoses: chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, CRPS, depression, anxiety, generalized anxiety. And at that point that I was working there, I had to get a new doctor. And when I went to go see my new primary after I moved, she was an hour late. She never looked me in the eyes and she told me, I don't know what your other doctors were doing, but you're on way too many medications for a 35-year-old. And we're going to immediately start taking you off of all these medications. So there was no concern for my symptoms, how sick I was, that I wasn't getting any better, that the meds really weren't working. It was just, we're going to take you off of all the things and it's all in your head and you have functional pain, Laura. And I went to go see a naturopath. I've told the story 1,000 times and was willing to pay whatever money and went to see the naturopath and said, I am 38. I'm on 13 different medications. These are my symptoms, which were a lot. And I'm kind of willing to do whatever you'll have me do. And she listened to me for 90 minutes, asked me to make a few dietary changes, did not tell me to exercise, did not tell me to try to lose weight. For her, it was get a massage once a week, start eating all organic. Let's just cut out dairy and gluten, the highest allergen foods, and start taking some of these supplements because all of your test results show that you're incredibly depleted. It was the first test result that had come back that wasn't normal in 3 years. And I just burst into tears because she told me it wasn't all in my head, that she could see so clearly why I felt the way I felt. So with supplements and food, I got off of 13 medications in 16 weeks. And I was like 80% better, way more functional. So as this is happening at this call center and I'm eating gluten-free and dairy-free and bringing my organic lunch to, and I'm getting calls of 36-year-old women and I'm looking at their charts and they're me. And this happened a lot. And I was required to tell them to do the things that I had done that did not work. And there is no way I could have, because every call is recorded, there's no way I could have shared my story, offered other possible solutions as a nurse. I didn't have the independence to help humans in the way that they needed to be helped. At the same time, I realized my daughter's brain swelling and ER visits that had been really trauma-inducing the months before were the result of her vaccines. That was happening. And then I was getting all these moms calling with infants and 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds that were having reactions. And I wasn't really allowed to connect the dots for them, even though I had connected the dots for my own daughter. So essentially I was in a moral straitjacket and I could no longer do the job. And at that time, I didn't have enough seniority to really get any other jobs within the Kaiser system. And thank God I found nurse coaching then. Thank God I found it then. So for me, I wanted the independence to serve humans and help them not suffer in a way that I could not do any other way. And I know for so many of you, this is where we start. It's the desire to help them, help our patients in ways that the system doesn't allow us to. Even just in the deep listening, in the appreciative inquiry, in the holding space, into the acknowledgement, into the loving presence that we can give in our sessions. Just that, without any information, without any kind of consulting or solving, is incredible. Now, I created independence in my way to serve, but that did not equal freedom. Far from it. My thoughts were holding me in a pattern of non-freedom. Of I have to hurry up and make this $100,000. I have to make this business make $100,000 because it's selfish if I don't. And who am I to leave this job where I answer the phone and I carry the benefits for my whole family? My husband was working overtime just to maintain our lifestyle. And how much longer could he be doing that for? So it didn't create freedom, but I had the independence to serve, which was the first step. And then the next step was how to create some money independence and then time independence. And that was the order for me. Independence to serve, creating independence with money. And for me, that looked like a certain amount coming in every single month of my business that we could rely on as a family. And then the third one was time. How could I be more independent with my time? And that's a struggle as an entrepreneur. And there's seasons where you have more time freedom than others. So I'm going to come back to you and ask you, what does independence mean to you? And where in your life do you not feel independent? I think creating our own schedule is really, really important, especially around sleep. So if all things are possible, we create our own reality. Let's talk about our preferences. I talk about preferences a lot because our preferences are what we would prefer. If reality is pliable and malleable and we can create with it, then we have to 100% own our preferences. Be brave enough to say what we prefer. Now, my preference is to go to bed every single night, in bed by 8:30, asleep by 9, and up every day by 5 a.m. That is the rhythm that works best for me, my body, and my family. So anything that would have me not to be able to honor that, I am not okay with. So time independence is huge for nurses because we're not in charge of our schedule. We're not in charge of the time that we work. We're constantly trying to make somebody else's needs fit us. And hey, we need people to do that. I'm not against that. But also in this world, in this realm of coaching, I think it's really important for us to own that we would prefer a certain rhythm to our life. I would prefer not to have to work any weekend. I like working. Sometimes I work weekends because I like it. Sometimes it's my favorite time to work, like a Sunday afternoon. A Sunday afternoon, drink a cup of coffee, come into my office, put on some music and do something creative. Oh, I love it. But I don't want to have to do that. Right? So my time independence is I don't want to work on weekends. And I'm going on vacation for 10 days next week. And I would like to have time freedom to not have to check any email or check in or do anything to manage my business. And we've created that. It takes time. So for you, what would time independence be? What's your ideal sleep schedule? What's your ideal work schedule? What's your ideal day? How would you feel if you had it? And then also try on the possibility that the feeling that you want from your perfect day is also accessible to you right now. Independence can come from external circumstances, and it can also come from freedom in our internal circumstances. The next is money, being able to earn what you want. This is really, really important to me in my own self-expression. It's more so now than it ever has been. If income is a preference, I'd prefer certain amounts of money so that there are opportunities for me to experience things that are different than would be if I didn't have that amount of money. So independence financially, what does that mean? What's the dollar amount? And this is a really interesting question we ask. Because it's like this, these parallel universes. My preference would be, if I could wave a magic wand today, I would prefer $100,000 a month to go into my personal checking account that I didn't have to think about. Wouldn't that be cool? Like, what would you do with $1.2 million revenue a year, or income a year? What are some things you do? There's lots of things that open up. There's lots of things that you don't like doing that you don't have to do anymore. There's lots of experiences that you want to have that you can have. There are things, places you want to go that you can go. There's people that you want to spend time with that you can spend time with. Like, a lot of things open up. Now, it's really important, if you seek freedom, to be brave enough to explore your preferences around time and money. That's all that they are. If I made $5,000 a month, I could do the inner work to feel free. I'd prefer to feel free at 100,000. Like, if both freedom, God, the universe is not keeping score. There's an infinite amount. If I get to claim it or match the frequency of it and prefer it, I prefer more. What does this mean to you? I also want to talk about independence as a nurse coach is the freedom to express yourself fully, right? Like to be able to talk about what you want to talk about, to work about what you want to work, to take what classes you want to take, to learn the skills you want to learn, to go to the retreats you want to go to host the retreats you want to host. Independence would be the ability to make a decision and carry it out with very little external circumstances getting in the way. There's a capacity we have to build to have that much freedom. And we walk people through that in the mentorship. Absolutely. 100%. But today, as our country talks about and explores and celebrates independence, where can you begin to explore what independence means to you, to your practice? Where can you get more free today inside your current circumstances? And that's about it. That's all I got, guys. I was thinking about, this is going to come out right around Independence Day. And Independence Day for me in the past has always been drinking and partying and boats and red, white, and blue bikinis. And I don't know what else. I feel like Bud Light. I don't know. And it's like this year, when I think about independence, I think about, from a non-political standpoint, our ability as Americans to be independent and to seek freedom. So, wherever you are in the country today listening to this, I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful Independence Day and that you continue to seek independence in your practice.